Hello and welcome, I am Annemie, and this is Dark Souls 3. So I know that some people are a little bit sensitive with spoilers about the game, but we are going to go into a new game plus save. Going to start right at the beginning, so hopefully there will be no spoilers. So we are awake. As you can see, this is not your typical starting gear. So we are most definitely in a new game plus, and starting with a ridiculous number of souls. So, to give a bit of my history with... still as easy to kill as ever. To give a bit of my history with the Souls series, I've never played the original Dark Souls. I've never played Demon Souls. I played Dark Souls 2 and really enjoyed it. Never actually completed it though. I got to... was Drangley Castle a thing? Oh. Still shaking off a bit of the rust. Not played it in about a week. I got to Drangley Castle and then just kind of stopped. I didn't hit a boss wall or anything like that. I think I picked up something else and then didn't go back to it. But then, so that was about maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. But then started playing Dark Souls 3 and I have now completed it and am, you know, really enjoying it. So, that is my Dark Souls history. Oop. Whoops, I'll have to go back and get that item, see if that's something different. Drop attack! So, importantly, I've never actually seen what a Dark Souls New Game Plus looks like, so this is going to be interesting for all of us. So far, these enemies still die just as easily, so that's not really the thing I'm worried about. I'm interested to see how the first boss is going to be. Okay, let's get this. Jump! There we go. What are you? Titanite Shard. Already got like 100 of you. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to show you a little bit of how the game starts, give my basic thoughts. Now, obviously I've completed the game and I'm coming back for more, so that's a pretty good sign as to what I think of the game. Let's see how this guy goes. I really like the look of it, that sort of black ooze coming from the guy. Okay. Okay, let's get some stamina back. That thing's growing from him. Well, that was easy. I am quite high leveled. I did a decent amount of grinding in the first time I played this. I'll just briefly show you my stats. I've got 27 vigor, which gives you the 1000 HP when you're in your sort of unkindled state. Unkindled, if you've played the previous games, is just like being your regular undead, your non-special state. I've got 40 in most of the important melee things, 41 in dex, because that extra one actually gave me a nice bit of a boost, and I think now I'm going to start boosting my intelligence. Because why not? Let's see if I can get some sorceries going, seeing as boosting my other stats isn't going to do much good. So this build I'm on was actually the second I tried. I tried a sorcerer build out first, and that went really quite well. It suited my style of play, where I'd go around quite carefully looking for enemies and sniping them. Let's pick that up. Good. So I could carefully take them down one by one, aggroing only those which I needed to aggro. The problem I got into were some of the bosses. So the one back there, Gundyr, whose armor I am actually wearing, that guy was actually kind of fine. I did him in two goes. The next few bosses after that, again, it was sort of one go apiece. It was quite good, but some of the bosses that are typically considered the easiest. So I'm thinking about, without giving away any spoilers, one of the bosses who teleports around quite a lot. That one gave me a lot of trouble. And the boss that tends to gang up on you somewhat, because it wasn't all that vulnerable to magic, and the melee I was having wasn't doing as much damage as I would want at that stage, so I actually couldn't get past that boss, and that boss is considered one of the easiest in the game. So that didn't go so well. So here we have Firelink Shrine. Andre the Blacksmith, who I believe was in Dark Souls 1. So he'll do all my smithing things. One of the interesting things now is you might have seen out here that instead of the usual Dark Souls health and stamina bars, we've got a health bar, got a stamina bar, and we've got this little blue bar. This is the focus bar. It's primarily used for all your stats and also weapon arts. So for instance, if you're two-handing a weapon like I am right now, I'm two-handing these twin blades, you can press your left trigger to do a little weapon art, which in this case is a sort of spinny slash thing. Lots of other weapons have got different weapon arts, so let's have a look at this sort of dark drift. You can sort of pierce things forward. Or this broken straight sword, you can just have you can be in a stance and then do different attacks whilst in that stance. So you've got a whole host of different feeling weapons, even with the same basic skins. So yeah, this is your hub world. You've got your crestfallen guy over there, you've got your shrine handmade person who will sell you stuff, and also, crucially, buy things off you. Dark Souls 3 is a lot more generous with being able to sell things. Got your Firekeeper, got your Blacksmith, don't have to hunt for anything, and you've got your bonfire warping. So, actually, there is also a bit up top here. Let's see if I can actually make this jump today. So, some of the geometry is aligned still in typically Dark Souls way, where you can exploit and get access to early things if you so choose. Ooh, Soul of an Intrepid Hero. I'm guessing they've upgraded all the soul bag items. Let's see if I can... No. I am going to make this, though. I might have to skip forward in the video, but I am going to make this. Actually, wait, I've just remembered I can buy a key to get up there. I've got the souls to spend. This is New Game Plus. I'm got souls for blimmin' days. Let's go and see what this shrine handmade is selling. There we go. I'm going to get this key off you. Doesn't seem to be selling anything new in New Game Plus. How much does that big soul get me? Oh, just 2,000. I mean, 2,000 is still quite a lot, don't get me wrong. But I was thinking that with such a new name, we would get to a new level which we'd not seen before, because that's not a soul bag item I've seen before. But oh well. Let's head up to this tower. So as you could see, that key cost me 20,000 souls, so typically you wouldn't be able to get up here early game. But it allows me to get some items which are useful. Let's get down here. Good. Kick that down. And we get to engage in a bit of exploration. What are you? Homeward Bone. I'm expecting some items to have changed locations. I don't entirely know what. Or some items to be improvements. I think this is how you get the better rings, isn't it? Hello, crow friends. That's... There we go. Would you like an Estus shard? I'm only offering it to you because I've maxed out my other Estus shards, so... my other Estus flask, so... So yeah, you've got your crows back, but this time they expect... Oh. Doesn't actually want my Estus shard. Fine. I guess I'll just do nothing with it. They only accept specific items this time, so this was the chest last time. It's still... What's in you? Covetous silver serpent ring. I've already got one of you. But thanks for the second. Ah! That wasn't too bad. I mean, I'm assuming that I can't reinforce my Estus flask any further. Let's find out if that's the case. Hey, Andre. You're the person who reinforces my Estus flasks. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to have these Estus flask shards left over then, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to explore Firelink Shrine and get more of the items later on, but let's actually show you some more levels. I'm not going to go too far. I don't even think I'm going to go to the next boss, even though I think I could get there quite quickly. But just give you an idea about what's coming ahead and whether or not you should buy it. So if you're starting off this game, I would definitely suggest going for a knight. You get 100% shield. Your stats are fairly middling with, I think, you get a focus on vigor, I want to say. There should be a bonfire around here. Oh, it's down here. And it's a good starting point to go. So, for me, I found that Sorcerer was good for everything leading up to a boss. But for the boss itself, I found that Sorcerer was just really quite weak, and you end up finding your way fairly easily to bosses generally, so that isn't actually that good a trade-off. Hey dog, bounce off my shield, then you die. You get into a rhythm quite quickly with this game, I find. Ooh, that was very nearly a mistake. Soul of a Proud Paladin. Have all the soul bag items been renamed? That would be... Especially if they've already occupied existing ranks, that would be a little bit weird. Let's go back to my... Oh! That was nearly quite bad, not concentrating on things. Okay, got the items from down there, I think? Yeah. Good! Let's head up this way. So, oh. That's... Oh. All sort of black stuff exploding from you. That's not fun. Okay, got anything new around here? It does look breakable. No. Is that a place that I don't remember going to that place, but it looks like a place where you can walk. That's confusing me a little bit. But yeah, for those of you who don't really know Dark Souls all that well, the typical thing in a Dark Souls is that if you see something, you're going to end up there. So for instance, that big castle up there, probably going to end up there. Let's have a look. And I can tell you for a fact that I have been up there. So that's really quite cool to see. If we look over this way, we see a number of things down there. You will end up going there. So the skybox ends up being a promise of places you will go. Let's head down this way then. A few enemies. There's an item there. Oh, thought I dodged that. Let's have a drink. Oh, my weapon is not that long. And deal with you. Oh. Deal with you. And I'll deal with... These enemies are faster than I'm expecting, so... catching me a little bit off guard. But any fight you live through is a good fight. Let's go through here. I mean, I don't think I've actually gone through this area. Fairly sure you're alive. There we go. Having a bit of trouble locking on there. Already got a set of binoculars. I wonder if I can sell binoculars. What sort of money they would reach. They were very useful for my sorcerer playthrough. So as you can see here, the environmental storytelling of Dark Souls still very much active. You see a load of people praying to this. Oh, thought I'd killed you. Ah, getting a bit overconfident. So I see a load of people, along with sort of some chairs, just sort of praying to this seemingly petrified dragon. And you'll see little bits throughout that game, through the game, continuing on in that sort of vein. Okay, let's deal with you. And there's someone behind here. I really should not be being this reckless. Let's... Okay. What are you? You're a firebomb. And typically I wouldn't suggest that new players start in this sort of vein. This would lead to a lot of deaths if you're not confident about where you're going. Okay. Ah. There we go. Because you start off with far fewer Estus flasks as well. I can just heal myself up, no real issue. So for those of you who haven't played Dark Souls before, a quite important thing to know is that you are temporarily invincible for part of your rolls, which means that you end up playing the game in a thoroughly different way to how you would if, you know, you were doing this in real life. If you see an attack, your natural instinct is to, you know, roll away from it. But in the game, rolling towards is actually frequently better because you end up being closer to your enemy. And you also don't risk the backswing as much, and you're also not rolling through the attack for quite so many frames. So that's an interesting little challenge. Okay. So there's going to be a tough enemy coming out there. I want to deal with you first. Oop, you're not dead. Okay, so this should be our first real test to see if, well, apart from, I guess, the boss, but of whether... whether we still have our rolling capabilities. There we go, that wasn't so bad. So yeah, the combat is as tight as ever. It feels incredibly responsive. The levels... I enjoyed the levels more than I'd... Ooh. I swear you weren't there last time. The levels... they feel better than Dark Souls 2. They are not like... Ooh. They're not like Dark Souls 1, they're not massively intertwined. And they're also not so much hubs on a wheel. Hubs on a wheel? Spokes on a wheel. They tend to actually be much more just sort of linear corridors. But within each level there's a lot of intertwining and going back to your shortcuts that you expect from your Dark Souls. And they're also really quite deep. Oh, Liminal. And they're also incredibly detailed and feature some of the prettiest level design I've ever seen in a game. Those of you who have gotten a decent way into the game will know... Ooh. Seems like that person was invincible whilst climbing the ladder. Not so invincible now. More people praying to... Dragon? You are dead now! So one of the things that you might be interested to know is whether or not the enemies stop respawning like in Dark Souls 2, and that is absolutely not the case. They will keep coming back, so you can farm them for as long as possible and you don't risk losing your progress, and I think that I like that. When I first played Dark Souls 2, I did actually start just clearing out all the levels because I was a little bit worried I was being a coward. Unnecessarily so. I definitely don't try to do that now, and I actually just run past quite a lot of things if I'm trying to get to a boss. Hello, Crystal Lizard. There we go. Did you drop anything new? I think that was what you dropped last time. Oh well. So yeah, if you didn't like that about Dark Souls 2, that is gone. And all in all, I've just really enjoyed the game. There have been a few bits which have been slow for me. It's got a couple of swampy deep water areas. Oh. Let's go with you. And it doesn't have a... Oh. What on earth is happening down there? It doesn't have a ring to let you deal with it, which is somewhat of a frustration. Hey, you. Yeah, of course you can get down there. So you end up just going quite slowly through these areas, which isn't particularly fun. I'm sorry, Dark Souls, I don't like your swampy areas. I don't generally mind poison too much. It's just when you start impeding my movement. It's not as bad as somewhere like Harvest Valley, Harvest Peak, something like that, where if you rolled through the thing you would be getting poisoned for longer. Still a poison swamp, but at least it's not having the stick around effect, which is somewhat of a lifesaver, because that... it's just... ooh, not fun. But yeah, I would thoroughly recommend checking this game out. I have missed a bonfire. I know I've missed a bonfire. I decided to just push on regardless. I would thoroughly recommend checking this one out. It's a great time. It looks, as you can see, amazing. I think I encountered maybe 1 or 2 bits where the frame rate was a little bit jaggy, maybe. I can't tell. Sometimes, if it's not too bad, I can't tell whether it's the frame rate or just me being rubbish. It might have been me just being rubbish, but on the whole, it runs really quite well. I've not encountered any serious problems with it. In terms of difficulty, so I know some people do care about difficulty, I found it easier than Dark Souls 2. But then, Dark Souls 2 was my first Dark Souls, so you'd expect that one to cause a little bit more trouble, right? Hello, firebomb person. You're dead now. Oop, missed. I remember the Pursuer in particular giving me a lot of trouble in Dark Souls. So I tried to learn parrying for that and I ended up doing that and killing it with the ballista. But that took a lot of tries. Hey, prison person. So yeah, I would suggest giving it a go if you are interested in games with strong environmental and item description based storytelling, where it's not going to throw a big huge story at you, and the NPC quest lines I think generally are, they're not particularly interesting for me. But they're alright, but your story isn't what matters in Dark Souls 3, it's the world story. And if you like that sort of thing and trying to unravel and piece together how the world got to be the way it is, and the different actors in it, then I would suggest giving this a go. If you like a fair and challenging combat system, where you can approach combat systems from a multitude of different ways, I would suggest giving Dark Souls 3 a go. If any of this seems even slightly interesting to you, but you're put off by the idea that it's impossibly difficult, it isn't. It might take a bit of getting used to, but I would suggest watching some Let's Plays of the thing and seeing how other people deal with stuff, because if you run in and start spamming the attack button, you are going to get killed unless, like me, you're overleveled in New Game Plus. But yeah, give Dark Souls 3 a go. It's good. Anyway, if you think that this video is good, I would deeply appreciate it if you were to like it. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. And I hope that above all, you have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye!